Fans, we're back. Of course, a lot of stuff happened on the college and pro level. The big news out of the UT game, Justin Hunter done for the season with a torn ACL.
You could see when he caught the ball, him landing, you could see him hitting hard, and then he immediately grabbed his knee.
When you immediately grab your knee like that, usually it's because your knee's popped, and you can feel it and hear it popping. Unfortunate injury,
It's a horrible feeling too.
It's going to take a year. He'll be back ready to play next year, but it usually takes a second year after that to fully recover to 100%. So unfortunately, maybe his senior year before he's fully recovered. Hopefully he gets a red shirt out of this. Not really sure what good it'll do if he does get a red shirt. He probably won't. He played 2 games, but I expect he would go pro early anyway, because he's been compared to lots of Randy Moss. It's going to probably knock him out of his track season. He's a great track, long jumper and such for UT. It's most likely ended that. But hopefully he can get back on the field next year. Big loss to the offense, and it stunned the team when it happened. So that was, probably another just terrible aspect of it. It couldn't happen at a worse time. But it's just continuation of all our bad luck against Florida, where everything that can go wrong usually does. And that first half, that was just a spiraling of things going wrong, except for that last drive right before the half ended, and had the stupid block punt. Guy just absolutely whiffed on his block. The missed field goal was huge, too. Had we made that field goal right there, maybe the offense went to the bench rattled. That's the same drive Hunter got hurt on. We still moved the ball well after he got hurt and marched right in the field and got in field goal range. Missed the field goal and just took all the momentum away. And then apparently according to Coach Dooley, got over on the sidelines and figured out Hunter was that badly injured, and it really affected the psyche of the team for about a quarter.
Of course, we had some other receivers that were able to step up. Derek Rogers, of course.
You can depend on Rogers. He's going to get his catches and he's going to get his yards. They were double and triple teaming him too. But after Hunter went out, that really, he still stepped up big. I was happy to see D'Anthony Arnett get in the game. He's our heralded signee at receiver, and he had about 8 or 9 catches, around 80, 90 yards. He's dependable, short. Zach Rogers had a few big catches too. It's nice to see him step up.
Anderson didn't get on the field, but he's got potential.
Nobody's going to match Hunter out there. We don't have anybody else on the roster that's his level of athlete, any shape or form. And we had the unfortunate, just plain frankly, flat out bad running game right now.
Yeah. Unfortunately, our center didn't do too well in Florida either.
Yeah, there's a lot of, just horrendously botched snaps.
Well, for whatever reason, before the season started, apparently it works better to have the center being, if the quarterback's right-handed, you need a right-handed center. Well, Stone's left-handed, and before the season started, he had switched over. And has been snapping with his right hand, his offhand. And against Florida, they frankly have a great defensive line. That's the strength of their defense. And they were able to, get in his head. He figured he had to get that ball snapped as quickly as he could and get up and start blocking. And he just wasn't prepared to do that with his offhand and get the snaps correct. And that's a testament to how well Tyler Bray played yesterday. With everything possible going against you, lose just your best player on that first series.
Yeah.
And that's the guy he goes to when he needs to throw it out, and he needs to get rid of it. That's one of his big go-to guys, because Hunter's frankly nearly unstoppable with his height and his leaping ability and speed. And that's gone. You have no running game. That's gone. It's your first game outside of the state of Tennessee, and you're in the most hostile environment possibly in the SEC. You can't get a clean snap from center.
Right. And it also, messes up the timing they worked on in the practice, because he's having to take his eye off the field to pick it up.
You're standing there as a quarterback. You notice a quarterback. He's holding his hands right here when he's waiting on the snap. That's where you want it to be, because your quarterback is scanning the field. He's watching the defense here. He's watching the defense there. And during that time, he has to take his eyes from down the field and look down to catch the snap and pick it up off the ground. He's lost track of where his receivers are going, where the defensive backs are standing. And, you know, that he played as well as he did with so many things going against him. That frankly was pretty amazing. He 300 yards passing, basically 3 touchdowns. His bad throw of the game was the first interception in the second half. That was a tough play. The block punt, the missed field goal, that interception, and the missed tackle on the 83-yard run were the 4 plays that changed that game. You look at the Gators, the people who made those plays. It was a senior throwing to a senior for the 83-yard touchdown. It was a senior blocking the punt. You know, on our side of the ball, that was a sophomore in his first healthy season missing the field goal. And it was a sophomore quarterback and a senior that intercepted it. You know, that's just one thing that we don't have on our side of the ball, our seniors who make big impacts every game.
Malik Jackson has potential, but did not have a good game against the
Malik
Gators.
Jackson is our lone senior on defense, especially that making any plays at all. And he had, you know, frankly, he had a pretty rough game against the Gators and had some penalties that cost the team. He didn't really get a lot of quarterback pressure going.
I mean, UT is still a young
I
team.
mean, I say Florida's a young team too. I'll give them that. Their secondary is especially young, and you saw that with all the passing from spots they had. And you know, frankly, Will Muschamp, he complained bitterly about it to the officials. Probably should have got a 15-yard penalty a couple of times a game, especially coming in the second half when he chased the officials off the field, barking in their ear the entire way. But you know, his receivers were guilty of interference. You cannot grab a jersey and stretch it out like that and not expect to get called. They're going to call it every time. And they did it on almost every play of the game and made the I mean, the officials didn't call it every time it happened, but they called it a lot. More than I frankly figured they would have. But it was happening on every play. That's apparently the way he said to go out and defend Tennessee's passing attack. He knows we couldn't run. And I said, that's another thing, where you know that we're not going to run the ball because we couldn't. Or for some reason, we're reasonably well, you know, equipped to pass block because it's more passive when you pass block. But when you're trying to push forward to run block, we're not very good at that. And I noticed that, you know, our entire, especially the right side of the line, we get pancaked sometimes.
That should never happen in an offensive line.
You got a 260-pound defensive lineman pancaking your 315-pound offensive lineman. It should be happening in the opposite direction of that. No, we had some people step up, had the defense make some big stands at times, and it looked like Florida could run away and put the game away, but they never quite put the game completely away. And right up until that last Bray interception, which, you know, I'm not going to hold him at that against him. You're in a desperate situation and having to pick the snap up off the ground, and the Gators know you're going to throw it, so they got 8 people back in coverage. An interception like that's going to happen. That was just a ball that sailed a little high, and the guy's back there playing safety, and it happened to fall in his hands. You know, the first interception, that was Bray's fault. He didn't see the guy over there on the sideline, apparently, and just, you know, kind of threw it right to him. But for a sophomore, first road start, he's smashing records right and left. You look, it showed his numbers during the game if you were watching. And his record was the same as Peyton Manning through his first 7 games, but his numbers were much larger, especially his touchdown.
I mean, Bray now is not only the holder of it, and he's still pushing out the record for 2 or more touchdowns for a quarterback again.
Yeah, 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in your first start in the Swamp, 9th game in a row with 2 or more touchdowns. With all the stuff that went against him that game, that was a good effort. We really need to see special teams improvements. Desperately bad, you know. It wasn't, like I said, that wasn't Glory's fault on that block punt. It was his fault on the missed field goal. But the block punt wasn't. There's just nobody blocked as he ran to the line. You got to at least throw a toe.
Get a shoulder off.
Shoulder or something out there to slow him down. He's the fastest player on the field. You have to bump him a little bit to get him off his stride. And they didn't. And, you know, it just spiraled a little bit there in that second quarter, first and second quarter after the injury and everything, and we got down 16-0, and you know, we weren't able to make it up. We outscored them, or we outscored them 23-17 the rest of the way, but you know, that's too late at that point.
Right.
It's just it sort of in ways mirrored the Campbell County game. Bad things happen early.
In fact, that interception was almost identical, except that Florida didn't take it in for a touchdown immediately.
It was just a few bad things happened on, you know, in both games that kept you from getting a win. There were 4 or 5 bad plays in each game. That's all it takes sometimes. That's the difference between a win and getting beat. It's just a few plays. That's why you got to take every play as if it's the most important play of the game.
Elsewhere in college football, defending national champion Auburn loses to Clemson.
It was at Clemson. Not a huge surprise to me. I mean, Auburn was, I guess people could say the respect factor, they should have been ranked higher, but as much as they lost off the team that won the national championship, I was more surprised that they beat Mississippi State than the fact that they were 2-0. Personally, a lot of people were, you know. It's turned out Mississippi State may not be that good because they got beat again this week. And they pretty much, that was their 2 games. They have to beat Auburn. They got to beat LSU to compete with Alabama in the West. And they lost both of them.
Of course, then there was Ole Miss and Vandy.
Vanderbilt, surprisingly, out 3-0. They did just beat Mississippi. They dominated Mississippi.
Now, Houston Nutt early on said he had the road map to Atlanta, which is good because that's where Emory University is, and that's probably where he's going to wind up.
All the coaches are invited to the SEC championship game, so he can go down there and hang out with the crowd. Mississippi, they were bad last year, but they're even worse this year apparently.
Of course, you had the big rivalry game in the Bluegrass State.
I was happy to see Kentucky lose.
I'm always happy to see Kentucky lose.
You know, I don't like Kentucky at all, and never will, especially their basketball team. Football team is just as bad though, so I'm fine with a little bit.
Or you know, I don't hate Louisville. I mean, I feel sorry for them. They have to live in the state of Kentucky.
But they have the river, so it makes things a little.
I wish they probably should dig a trench around the river and direct it around the backside of the city. So
just
between them and Kentucky instead of between.
Just let Indiana annex.
Indiana, it'd be better off.
I mean, Indiana's boring, but at least it's not Kentucky.
You know, that LSU game was a big one. South Carolina and Georgia. South Carolina barely won against Navy. It surprised me. Did Georgia win? I'm pretty sure Georgia beat somebody.
Georgia beat Coastal Carolina.
Georgia played a Clemson. They were off, basically because it's Coastal Carolina. Arkansas, I'm pretty sure blew somebody out.
I think it was a directional score.
Big game looming next week against Alabama. Probably the game of the week in the SEC. Alabama blew out North Texas.
Of course, elsewhere you also had Oklahoma and Florida State.
Oklahoma handled Florida State fairly easily. It doesn't surprise me. I think Florida State just vastly overranked being in the top 5, to be honest with you. I'm pretty sure most people were thinking, well, Florida State's probably going to lose to Oklahoma, but the ACC's so bad they're going to run the table in the ACC, so we're going to rank them this high. I mean, that seems illogical, but you get ranked a lot of times based on because they think, that's why Oklahoma's ranked number 1.
Right.
You know, they believe that if they can beat Texas, they're going to win all their games, so they should rank them number 1.
Of course, there's a lot of pro action this week too. Dallas won in overtime against the 49ers.
Yeah, I did get to see the game. We've been here doing this. Saw some of the stats from it. Apparently, I don't know what happened. Tony Romo left during the 3rd quarter, and John Kennedy came in through a touchdown pass. But Tony Romo was back for the 4th quarter. I'm a Dallas fan personally. Tony Romo wants me to just pull my hair out with his just erratic and oftentimes, I would say, terrible play, especially late in games. I was surprised that they actually pulled this one out by scoring 10 points in the 4th quarter with less than 6 minutes to go, and then getting a field goal in overtime. But it's tough to be a Dallas fan sometimes.
Of course, the Colts still suffering without Peyton Manning.
Probably the one game of the year most people thought they might win without Manning was against the Cleveland Browns, but they lost that one too.
The Titans' surprising victory today over the Ravens, and didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, that's the big shocker of the day in the NFL. You know, I don't see how a team like the Titans goes and loses to a pretty bad Jacksonville team last week and beats what's probably considered the 2nd best team in the AFC behind the New England Patriots. You know, Buffalo come and dominated Pittsburgh last week 35-7. Everybody thought, well, God, you know, they may be the best team in the AFC. They beat the defending Super Bowl representative from the AFC 35-7, their arch rival. Came out late egg against Tennessee today.
Of course, you had the Saints. They
Saints
picked up a pretty big win over the Bears today.
They put a pretty bad beating on the Bears, 130-13. Our friend Chris Burton, I'm sure, is pretty upset with that one.
Right, my good friend Superstar Eric Charles, probably torn up, may have actually watched the game with Steve Mongo McMichael today.
Or at least that Steve Mongo McMichael's bar.
Rough day for the Bears. They got a big one next week against their arch rival Green Bay.
Right. A little bit before we wrap up the segment here, got to send a big congratulations and happy birthday out The Wartburg coaches, Rodney Ellison and Joseph Jobe. Both had birthdays this week.
Got your birthday win, guys. I'm glad to see that.
Happy birthday. And
Oh, happy birthday to Carly Wright, too.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Carly Wright's big birthday.
Of course, this week, I want to encourage everybody to come to Jacksboro. We're going to follow for the homecoming games. And definitely hit the road to Clinton.
Yeah. Cougars got a good shot at getting a win at Clinton this week.
Clinton's a hostile environment normally, so it'll be great to have a packed, friendly student and, visitor section.
That's also another thing I have to say was awesome to see from a team that was as far away as Hardin Valley. They packed out the student section.
I will give this to. I meant to give it in the last segment. Hardin Valley has the best band I've ever saw at the high school.
They're not a band.
Now, yeah, they're an outdoor performance
ensemble.
The best band I ever saw at a high school. I'm not going to give them their communist name. they have instruments and they play them. They're a band.
They even had a fire.
But they did have a fire juggler, and they had dancers dressed up like Pocahontas. It's the damn dumbest thing I ever saw. I enjoyed it. I thought Bobby Bowden's in that gun all the time.
Fans, we're going to wrap this segment up. We'll see you next week. Same Pat time, same Pat channel.
Really?
What? No good?